For a safe pair of hands, somebody who is a highly experienced operator. Theresa May has been running the Home Office for many years now. It's a perilous brief to have. She's done it very well. And, you know, the way that she launched her leadership campaign today, simply saying, I'm Theresa May, I believe I'm the best person to be the Prime Minister, and actually making an asset about the fact that she isn't a plotter, she isn't a tea room gossip, and she certainly isn't those things. I think the feeling is now is the time for a sober person who will not be involved in this type of deplorable plotting that we've seen in the last 24 hours.
So really this is saying more about what the Daily Mail thinks of Michael Gove than Theresa May, is that what you're saying? That actually this act of treachery, as some have described it, does not sit comfortably with the paper?
Well, I don't want to speak for the paper, I'm just talking about what I think and what people in the country are probably feeling now, which is a desperation, I think, for stability. And now is not the time for a novice, now is the time for an experienced
Michael Gove isn't a novice,
pair
though.
of hands. Well, Michael Gove has been running the Justice Department, which isn't quite on the scale of running
and education
the Home Office. Well, that didn't work out very well, did it?
I wonder if people in the Conservative Party will look back on this day and think that Gove was incredibly ruthless. I mean, it's just breathtaking, actually, the ruthlessness with which he's operated, and you sort of, you know, forget that this is a party that ruthlessly dispatched Margaret Thatcher all those years ago, and they literally, you know, they didn't waste any time at all. But I wonder if they'll look back and think Gove has done them a favour, because I think he's done two things. He's taken Boris Johnson out of the running altogether, when this morning we thought that Boris Johnson, you know, he was kind of odds on to be our next Prime Minister. And I think he could have been a disaster for the country and the Conservative Party. Just look at the way he conducted himself in the Leave campaign. So he's done that. And I think Gove, I don't think Gove has got much of a chance himself, but I think he's made Theresa May the one to beat for all the reasons that Isabel talked about. And I watched, you know, all of the candidates launching their campaigns over the last kind of 24 hours or so. And I have to say, I think Theresa May probably came across as the most prime ministerial. When you think about the Brexit negotiations, when you think at what's at stake, you know, she probably comes across as the person who's going to be most competent in the negotiating room. It's a time when the Tory party really needs an adult at the helm, I think.
I mean, I think one of the concerns among everybody who supported Brexit is, you know, there was a strong cry to have a Brexit-supporting Prime Minister. That makes logical sense. It was notable that Theresa, in her leadership speech this morning, made very clear that she wasn't going to resile from that. Are we to trust that? That's another question. But she was very careful to set out those things that she would not be rowing back from. I must say that in the Commons today, talking to MPs, there is a feeling, first of all, an immense anger about the mess that we're in now. You know, feeling that while politicians stick knives in each other's backs and plot for the leadership, there are people out there who want proper representation for real everyday problems.
And you said that Michael Gove stopped Boris Johnson running. He destroyed his career, didn't he? He basically said, you're not up for the job. And if he's not up for that job, what job in politics is he up for?
Well, I think that's a really good point. I do think, though, that there's a good chance that I think if Boris had made it into the top two, and I think he might well have done if Michael Gove hadn't sort of taken him out, I think there's a good chance he would have been the next PM. He's very popular with the Tory membership, although, interestingly, the polling suggests that he's not as popular as May. But I think there's a really good chance that he would have imploded his own career, because he's, you know, he's really made some really quite serious mistakes over the last few months, I think. Most notably, last weekend, we just voted to leave the EU. Boris was nowhere to be seen. He was playing cricket. So, I mean, Michael Gove has dispatched him, but I think there's a very good chance that Boris would have dispatched himself.
But that's a serious point. If he hadn't played cricket and spent more time writing his Telegraph column and actually properly spelling out what he really believes about free movement of people in the single market, then he may not have got himself into this situation.
Well, hang on a minute. You say that, but we now know that Michael Gove actually read through Boris Johnson's column before it was published. And did Michael Gove raise any substantive question marks about the key things that were most controversial in Boris Johnson's column? No, he didn't. So what does that tell you? Does that suggest possibly that he had been plotting this for a little bit longer?
And that is the suggestion in many of the papers. Et tu, Gove is the I's take on this. Obviously, the Shakespearean tragedy was quoted subliminally by Boris Johnson as part of his speech, wasn't it? Certainly. The idea of a calculated plot, which takes us to the Telegraph, doesn't it?